Las Vegas seems to be cursed by $1 billion curse. Every project hailed as redefining the future of the city gradually turns into a gilded financial nightmare. Fontainebleau Las Vegas, a $3.7 billion resort, is the latest symbol of that paradox. From the day it opened, Fontainebleau was draped in the familiar language of the Strip, absolute luxury, grand architecture, and the promise of an unexplored upper-class clientele. But behind the lights is a resort losing nearly $400,000, while loan debts continue to balloon like a gamble that has spiraled out of control. Fontainebleau did not fail due to a lack of funds, but because of an excess of illusions. It's too expensive to be a mainstream choice, too bland to compete with Vegas's established icons, and too costly to pivot when the market shifts. The business model is stuck between ultra-luxury fantasy and not enough value to spend money on. In a Las Vegas worn down by debt, interest rates, and unrealistic expectations, Fontainebleau no longer represents the future. It's a stark warning for a city that's betting too heavily on miracles. In today's video, we'll dissect why a project hailed as redefining the Strip is rapidly becoming an expensive eyesore right in the heart of the city. Las Vegas just spent over $3.7 billion to create a future dream, and all those expectations are placed on Fontainebleau, the newest project on the North Strip, opening on December 13, 2023. This resort was built to target wealthy and high-end gamblers with an unprecedented scale: 3,644 rooms, 36 restaurants and bars, a 173,000 square foot casino, and retail and entertainment venues such as theaters, nightclubs, and day clubs. The 67-story tower is positioned as a symbol of Miami luxury set amidst Las Vegas. But there is a clear gap between the initial vision and the existing reality. From the very first months, Fontainebleau had a start described as a rocky one. A common feeling among many visitors upon entering is not vibrancy, but rather spaciousness, coldness, and a lack of human warmth, resembling a ghost casino or a dead shopping mall. The irony lies in this. A project touted as having a construction cost of approximately $3.7 billion and expected to become the new destination of the Strip was described as empty in many public areas, retail spaces, and casino floors less than 2 years later. Empty here doesn't just mean few people. It's the feeling of a giant machine operating below capacity, high ceilings, vast spaces, large art, but no pulse. It's that very scale that makes the emptiness feel multiplied many times over. When a new casino with massive investment doesn't attract enough customers to fill its capacity, financial problems quickly become a burden. According to some reports and industry sources, in the months immediately following its opening, Fontainebleau is said to have lost up to $400,000 per day, as operating costs such as staffing, marketing, maintenance, and utilities exceeded revenue from rooms, gaming, and dining combined. The figure of $400,000 per day already sounds large, but when weighed against the context of American life, it becomes even more significant. According to the U.S. Census Bureau, the median income for a U.S. household in 2023 was $80,610 per year. That means the amount of money burned in a day is equivalent to nearly 5 years of median household income. If this situation persists for a year, the losses could reach approximately $146 million, equivalent to the annual income of over 1,800 households. A place where you can spend in 24 hours the amount that thousands of families have to work all year to earn. Yet it doesn't create a corresponding sense of value. Therefore, despite being promoted as the new bright spot of the city, Fontainebleau is increasingly mentioned with cold remarks. Cold, themeless, and looks like a dead mall. From a project once expected to define the future, Fontainebleau seems to be becoming a symbol of the disconnect between two eras of Las Vegas, between an old, mass market and energetic Vegas, and a new, luxurious, but cold and empty one. And when a machine is forced to burn money to maintain its image, how will it compensate? Typically, the answer lies in the price, fees, and distorted experience, where the word overpriced begins to take on its true meaning. A mega resort in Las Vegas doesn't operate like a typical hotel. With its enormous scale, the costs for personnel, utilities, maintenance, advertising, and amortization create a very specific pressure. You have to win every day. You don't need to lose, just stand still, and the cash flow will reverse. When fixed costs become too high, the resort's options are almost limited. Typically, there are only 3 ways to boost revenue: higher room rates, more surcharges, and upselling premium experiences through upsell packages. But in Las Vegas, a city that thrives on different tiers of guests, this strategy isn't always suitable, especially for a new brand where customers haven't yet developed the habit of returning. Fontainebleau was put at a disadvantage right from the market structure, located on the north end of the Strip. This resort doesn't benefit from the natural foot traffic enjoyed by hotels in the central core. This means spending more on marketing, promotions, and discounts just to make up for the number of visitors competitors already have. Meanwhile, Fontainebleau is stepping directly into the luxury segment, competing head-on with brands that have built loyalty over many years, such as Wynn, Encore, Venetian, or Palazzo, where guests return out of habit, not curiosity. But the cause of the emptiness is not solely internal. The market context is also working against newcomers. Tourism in Las Vegas in 2025 is showing a clear cooling trend. In June 2025 alone, the number of visitors decreased by 11.3%, which is equivalent to nearly 400,000 fewer visitors. By the end of the year, the city still hadn't returned to its 2024 pace, especially in its 2 most important arteries, incoming flights and booked conference schedules, which are the sources of a steady flow of people and significant spending. However, the market is only the first floor. The second floor is located right inside the resort. Fontainebleau has a cost structure described as too heavy, a large workforce, aggressive marketing, plus fixed costs like maintenance, utilities, and services. At many points, these costs were considered to exceed the ability to sustain themselves through the combined revenue from rooms, dining, and the casino. The irony is that, despite being promoted as an upscale paradise, Fontainebleau opened in an unfinished state. Many amenities are not yet available, and some restaurants and bars are not fully operational. For visitors, the feeling is very clear. They are paying for perfection, but entering a building that is still in the process of perfecting itself. Reflections on the experience began to emerge and spread quickly. On TripAdvisor, one guest described Fontainebleau as a huge disappointment after a long wait. They reflect extremely slow check-in, unresolved bills for 3 days, slow and unenthusiastic service at the Blue Bar, frequent unavailability of menu items in the restaurant, and even dirty, stained room windows. These aren't isolated, serious flaws, but in the context of high prices and luxury expectations, they become systemic drawbacks. When a new resort hasn't yet established a habit of repeat guests, any operational errors are amplified on social media. This is particularly dangerous for a brand trying to establish its position through price. Each negative experience is not just a lost customer, but a story that spreads very quickly. The location at the north end of the Strip continues to create a psychological barrier. Not many people are willing to travel far just to try a place that doesn't have a solid reputation yet. With Fontainebleau, distance is not just geographical, but a distance of trust. Underneath it all is prolonged financial pressure. The construction debt of approximately $3.7 billion makes interest payments a ticking time bomb. In that context, Fontainebleau's continued purchase of an additional 2.2 acres of adjacent land for $112.5 million raised many questions. Is it a long-term growth plan or a manifestation of ambition, outpacing cash flow sustainability? Fontainebleau entered its launch phase with very little cushion of confidence. The partner and loyalty signals that were previously disrupted left the resort with little room for error. And in that environment, every wrong decision comes at a very high cost. When cash flow pressure builds up, many businesses choose the quickest route, raising prices. But in Las Vegas, the cost isn't just money. It's a message about how businesses view customers. And when that message is understood as milking it dry, the backlash is no longer personal, it's systemic. It is at this point that Fontainebleau touches the most sensitive nerve of Americans: hidden fees and the feeling of being ripped off, something that kills trust faster than any recession. The issue of fees is no longer a matter of sentiment or personal complaints. By the end of 2024, the U.S. Federal Trade Commission (FTC) officially issued a regulation called the Junk Fees Rule, which was published in the Federal Register in early 2025. This regulation directly targets businesses that hide or drip-feed mandatory fees in the short-term accommodation and ticketing industries, forcing displayed prices to reflect the true total cost consumers must pay. The federal government's intervention shows that this is no longer an isolated issue for a single hotel or city. It reflects a broader trend where consumers increasingly feel misled by listed prices and are losing trust in how businesses present cost. In that context, the story of Fontainebleau is no longer an expensive resort, but has become a prime example of the widespread feeling of being exploited. Fontainebleau truly became the center of public attention in early 2024 with a small but impactful scandal, dubbed Nacho Gate. A photo of a plate of nachos at the sportsbook bar in the resort went viral on social media. Just 6 tortilla chips, a few toppings, and many small cups of sauce, priced at around $24. The story was quickly reported by major newspapers in Las Vegas and became a nationwide laughingstock. Here, nachos are no longer just about food. It became a psychological symbol. People don't judge the taste or portion size, but rather the company's way of thinking. A small plate becomes a window into how the resort views its customers, as people to be served or as a revenue stream to be maximized. From that moment on, the phrase overpriced dump began to appear. It's not that Fontainebleau is truly a rundown place, but that more and more visitors feel they are not treated as experience seekers, but as a number on a spreadsheet. When this feeling forms, all other fees, whether large or small, are viewed with suspicion. Why can just one plate of nachos damage a multi-billion-dollar brand? And once consumers have lost trust, can businesses repair the damage simply with their products? Or are they forced to change their philosophy of customer treatment? The answer often appears very quickly in consumer behavior. The next step in turning away is not complaining about the price, but walking away when you feel you're paying more but getting less. And that's also when the story shifts to a deeper level, the actual operational experience inside Fontainebleau. After the hidden fees story eroded trust, the next factor determining whether people return is their actual experience. And in Fontainebleau, many reviews on various platforms reveal a familiar pattern for new resorts: slow check-in, rooms not ready on time, slow issue resolution, along with some complaints about hygiene and room equipment. The noteworthy point isn't that the resort is flawed. All new resorts have flaws. The problem is, Fontainebleau positions itself as premium, with premium prices and premium fees. When customers pay a premium, tolerance decreases very quickly. A small mistake in a budget hotel can be overlooked. But in a place advertised as luxury, that error becomes evidence that price and quality are misaligned. In the travel experience, There's a particular feeling that makes people even more frustrated than losing money, losing time. Lengthy check-in processes create a time theft effect. Guests not only feel they are being charged, but that their vacation is being stolen from them right at the entrance. And when a vacation starts with waiting, everything behind is difficult to salvage. In the hospitality industry, the feeling of being abandoned when support is needed breaks trust faster than bad food or a poorly served dish. It leaves customers feeling like they're paying a high price. But no one is taking responsibility commensurate with that amount. When the audience already has the preconceived notion that something is overpriced, every small mistake becomes even more dangerous. It's not just a mistake. It became reinforcing evidence for a preformed conclusion. They are maximizing profits, but not reinvesting in services. And this is the stage where bad reviews begin to self-generate more bad reviews. People come with negative expectations, and just a small mistake confirms that belief. Can a resort be called luxury if it doesn't even guarantee the most basic things? And when bad experiences spread faster than advertising, what tools do businesses have to fight back? In Vegas, the answer lies within the casino ecosystem. Las Vegas doesn't operate on appearances. It operates on behavior. The casino floor needs rhythm, needs a reason for guests to stay, needs an experience designed around the player, not around the cameras. A resort can be beautiful, but if it doesn't offer a reason to stay, it will only be a place to visit, not a place to return to. Fontainebleau has been criticized in numerous community analyses for lacking some of the drivers that gamblers typically expect from a major casino. It's not just about the number of tables or machines. That's the bar rhythm, features to support long playing habits, and elements that make players feel this place has its own breath. When those drivers aren't strong enough, the casino lacks natural momentum. When the casino is slow, the resort has to rely more on rooms, restaurants, and fees to make up for the revenue. And it's that model that creates a sense of extraction, where guests no longer feel welcome, but rather like they are being maximized for value. Successful resorts in Vegas often excel in one area. Regardless of whether guests play a little or a lot, they walk in and feel welcome. That atmosphere doesn't come from the decor. It comes from the pace of operations, consistency in the experience, and how they make guests feel they have a reason to stay longer. Fontainebleau entered a market where loyalty was already locked down by large systems like MGM Rewards and Caesars Rewards. When loyalty has been built over many years, a newcomer cannot rely solely on a new design. They need a strategy strong enough to create a habit of returning. Otherwise, guests will return to familiar places, because familiar in Vegas often means safe. In gambler pool strategies, tier matching and comps are powerful tools, but this is also a double-edged sword. If operated inconsistently, incentives are no longer a motivator. It became a point of suspicion, and in the world of gamblers, doubt spreads faster than bad news. Therefore, the question isn't whether Fontainebleau is worth visiting. The question is, do they really understand how Vegas works? Because Vegas doesn't live on chandeliers. Vegas thrives on faith and the habit of returning. And Fontainebleau touched the most sensitive point of that, in the tier matching crisis that the gambling community remembers for a very long time. In an effort to attract players from major ecosystems like MGM or Caesars, Fontainebleau initially gained significant attention with its tier matching program. In theory, this is a familiar tactic in Las Vegas, allowing players to bring their status from their old location to the new one, in the hope that they will try and stay. But in the gambling community, the story of Fontainebleau is told from a different perspective. According to some community observations and word of mouth, Fontainebleau's tier matching policy is considered to change too quickly and lack consistency. Details like the program being adjusted or stopped early, even without a standardized press release confirming it, are enough to create a sense that the rules of the game could change at any moment. And for a gambler, that's the ultimate taboo. In the world of casinos, loyalty isn't built on high or low offers. It's built on stability. Players can accept less, but they find it very difficult to accept being promised one thing today and seeing the rules change tomorrow. When feelings of insecurity arise, they don't argue. They simply left. When trust is damaged among VIP players and high rollers, the consequences extend beyond just a few customers. These people carry with them an entire network of stories. And Las Vegas thrives on word of mouth. A negative story within the gambling community can spread faster than any advertising campaign. Fontainebleau entered a market where loyalty had been built over decades. Therefore, any missteps related to loyalty are exaggerated. In the eyes of the community, Fontainebleau is no longer just a new resort. It's a place not yet worthy of long-term trust. How much marketing money can buy back a promise that has been doubted? And can a loyalty system be sustainable if players believe the rules will change with each stage? One of the most concerning signs for observers in any major project is not the lack of customers, but the departure of the operator. With Fontainebleau, this happened very early. According to the Las Vegas Review-Journal, less than a month after opening, COO Colleen Birch and CMO Shane Smith voluntarily resigned. In the following weeks, the local newspaper continued to report on the departure of other senior leaders, creating the impression of a bloodletting period occurring just as the resort was still trying to stabilize. These personnel changes do not mean Fontainebleau is about to collapse, but they are public signals that the initial operational phase is experiencing problems significant enough to force changes at the leadership level. And in a multi-billion-dollar project, that rarely happens if everything is going according to plan. Alongside the internal instability is a high-profile legal battle. Wynn Las Vegas sued Fontainebleau, alleging the new resort was poaching senior staff and violating contractual agreements. The lawsuit was widely reported by the Review-Journal and local media, reflecting the intense competition in the luxury segment. Although the legal outcome is still pending, the image it creates is clear. Fontainebleau is being drawn into major disputes while still trying to find its footing. By May 2025, another fact continued to attract attention. The Review-Journal reported that Fontainebleau laid off dozens of dealers, with internal sources estimating the number could be as high as 60, while the resort declined to release the exact figure. This is very expensive data because it directly impacts the experience. Fewer tables in operation, a weaker casino rhythm, slower service, and the feeling of emptiness is further amplified. Fontainebleau might not collapse completely, but it's becoming a clear case study, a project that's too large, entering a market that's too competitive, in an era where consumers can no longer tolerate feeling exploited. For the audience, this is not just the story of a resort. It's a story about how tourist cities are trying to sell expectations, while residents and visitors just want real value. When a new resort has to cut staff on the casino floor, is it just a normal adjustment, or a sign that the equation was wrong from the start? And if Las Vegas continues to rely on fees and hype to offset cost pressures, how much of the soul that once drew people back will this city retain? Fontainebleau is not an ugly building. It's even very new, very large, and very expensive. But the story here isn't about architecture. The story is about a model, building too big, pricing too high, and expecting that luxury alone will draw customers. In an era where consumers are sensitive to hidden fees, wary of the pay more, get less experience, and tired of feeling exploited, Fontainebleau becomes a test case for Las Vegas as a whole. a city once famous for making people feel welcome, is now suspected of selling expectations more than value. Fontainebleau is adjustable. They can improve their service. They can be transparent about pricing. They can rebuild loyalty. But if a new resort has to struggle from the start to prove itself worthy, is that its own fault, or a sign that Vegas is entering a different era? Perhaps Fontainebleau isn't the end. It could be a warning that no investment is large enough to buy back trust once it has been broken. If you've ever been to Fontainebleau, or if you've ever seen a place that's getting more expensive but emptier, leave a comment. I really want to hear your story. If you find this video helpful, please like, share it with others, and subscribe so I can continue making these types of breakdowns. Slow, detailed, and straight to the point. Thank you for watching until the end. See you in the next video. This video is compiled from transcripts, public data, mainstream articles, and consumer feedback on review platforms. Some information from the community that is estimated or descriptive will be expressed as according to some sources and may change with new updates. The video content is informative and analytical and is not intended for legal accusations or absolute conclusions about any individual or organization.